Hello everyone, welcome to our cacti and sand craft class. Today we have a bunch of materials in front of us, so let's go through all of them, make sure we have everything. You should have your frame, a piece of wax paper underneath, a paper towel, a large brush, a small brush, a cup of water. You have a bunch of beautiful sand and in all different assortments of colors. You have your pink, your gold, your light blue, your dark blue, and your white. In addition, you have your glue, your white paint, your two green mixes, and you don't have to actually mix them. They can just kind of stay in your container like so, and then your black paint. The first thing we're going to do for this class is we are going to start removing the plastic cover. And I think I did it in the last video with you guys, but I kind of just used one of the little sharp edges, one of the little sharp edges of the frame just to kind of help poke it through. And that just kind of helped me create a hole. You can even use one of the backs of your brushes to kind of get in there a little bit more, but do your best to just kind of find a good space to use to cut through that plastic. I'm going to move my little metal piece. I think that'll be my best way. Be very careful. They can be kind of delicate and come off, so don't accidentally break one. But again, all you're doing right now is removing the plastic cover. You can put it off to the side so it's out of your way. I'm also going to open it up in the back. I'm just going to lift up all of the metal pieces and remove the backing. I can also put that to the side. I'm also going to remove that piece of paper, move that to the side. I'm also going to remove the piece of glass very carefully and place it on to my wax paper. It doesn't matter which side, they're the same texture on both sides. And you'll also put the framing aside for now, so you don't want to have anything but that glass piece. Be very careful. But we are going to start creating some fun waves with our colors of sand. We're going to put glue on it and then just kind of sprinkle our sand. And as we're kind of going from one color to the next, we're just kind of dusting off whatever extra pieces we have. You don't want to go more than halfway with your sand because later on we are going to make a cacti area where we're going to have like a little bit of a white background and our cacti shape with black and white lines, but I'll show you that in a bit. Again, we're going to focus on the bottom half with our sand pieces and then on the top half with our plant life. For our sand, they are going to be in waves, kind of one over the other. You don't want to have a space between each color change. You can truly choose your order if you want by having, one kind of above the other, kind of seeing it before you officially go in there and glue them. So let's say I wanted the order of my sand to be in this order. So the top wave would be blue, then I would have gold, pink, light blue, white. I think I'm going to kind of break up some of the brighter colors with the white and the golds. Also, the two blues look really good together too, so I might even think about that combination. But before you glue it on to your glass piece, you can kind of mess with the sand colors and see which colors you want together. I'm gonna maybe even do this. I don't know, there's so many good choices. I don't think you can really go wrong with any of them, but maybe even something like that for your color shape. Excuse me, for your color order. But again, you're welcome to kind of lay it out however you want. Be sure when you glue it, you're not going past this halfway point. But we are going to start from the bottom. For the first part of this, I am going to take my big brush and your glue. It should say the word glue and the letter G on it, so be sure you're not going into your white paint. But I'm going to take my big brush, you don't have to wash it, and go into my glue. Be sure it's not dripping, you can always wipe it off on the side. And this is going to be my first wave. And you can even hold your finger here so you know you're not getting anywhere close to there because you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different colors of sand. And again, it's just like a wave, going down and up. You can always go back for more glue. You want, a good layer, not too thick, not too thin, with your brush. And I'm going all the way from one side of the glass piece to the other. And I know that I have 4 more areas of sand, so I can just kind of think about 1, 2, 3, 4. So maybe I want to go a little bit higher, so I can make this part a little bit thicker. Some can be thinner, some can be thicker, but you want to make sure you're really using that space. It might be hard to see, but kind of go down and up. It's just a nice little wave. You want to smooth out the glue so it's not too thick on there. So there's my first wave right there. You don't have to wash your brush, but just kind of keep it away from anything that it can stick to. This is the bottom, so I want to use the color that I've chosen for the bottom. And then all you're going to do is just kind of pinch it on top like you would, salt. Just going to pinch it, make sure it's sticking a little bit at a time so I don't go too fast with my color. You're slowly covering up all that glue with the color of sand that you've chosen. And just be sure you're moving it. You're not in the same space, so you don't have a big bunch up area of dark blue. And be sure you're not getting it onto your big brush. If you did get some onto your big brush, you can wash and dry your big brush so you don't have any sand on there. But again, I want to make sure I cover it a lot. It's okay if it's a little bit messy, but you want to do your best just to kind of find those pinched areas. Be sure you're covering up all that glue. Like so. You can take your time, no rush. Whichever color you've chosen. Put my big brush a little bit further out so it definitely doesn't get any of the sand. Put my small brush over there too. Once you're done, I'm going to do it off to the left side. Just going to kind of go like this so any extra of the dark blue kind of comes off. And if you wanted to go back and you wanted to put any extra, if you notice there's some spots missing, you can always go back and add some more of the dark blue. Like so. That's so cool. And then very carefully just kind of move this down so it's not in your way. And then we'll get a nice clean spot again. And this is still, the extra blues are still on my wax paper, so I'm making sure that anything extra is on my wax paper so it's easy to throw away. I can just pick up the wax paper at the end and toss it in the trash. So there is our first area. I am going to skip a spot, so I'm going to skip my white and I'm going to go where I want my blue to be. I just don't want to be too close to anything that's wet right now with my sand or with my glue. So I'm going to skip a space and I'm going to just kind of imagine what shape the white would be. So I'm going to build above it. So this is where my white's going to be. I'm going to make a line, maybe come down a lot. I'm just going to follow that space. So my white's going to be in here. I want to avoid that space because what I want to concentrate on is where I want my light blue to be. So I'm just going to create a nice space for my light blue to land. Again, this can be just kind of whatever wave you want. Remember, you have 2 more colors. And let's say you got a little bit too much on there. You can always wipe it off with your fingers. You're going to be covering it up with sand. I feel like I got a little bit too thick in that area, so I'm just going to wipe it off while the glue is still wet. exactly that way right there. I'm going to put my big brush aside. I'm going to skip white for now and go into that blue. And if it helps, you can even turn it upside down to where you're kind of steering away from the dark blue. It's more towards you. So I'm going to turn it upside down. I'm going to do the same thing as before. Be very careful not to get anywhere close to that dark blue. And you're just pinching some light blue where you want your sand to stick. Be sure you're spreading it out. There's not a huge thick layer in one area. And you're covering up all that glue. Take your time covering it. Make sure you've gotten it all. It's okay if I get more extra down here because that's going to just fall right off. It's not going to stick to anything. And then I can get that one out of the way too because I've already used it. And then very carefully I'm going to turn it to the left again, just like how I did before. Try not to get any on your dark blue. It's like so. And then I'm just going to move all this extra sand down. I'm just going to throw all this away. If you want to keep some, I guess you can keep your colors a little bit separated at the bottom part so they're not touching. So let's say you wanted to keep your colors for later. You can make sure that they're separated and then just sprinkle up, kind of put them back into the container for the colors. So don't mix them down here. Keep them separated, or then you can start one by one putting them back into the containers if you want to use them again. It's always a good idea to reuse. But if you don't have that much and you just want to throw it away, you can just bring them all down in one big spot. But keep them separated if you wanted to go in there and sprinkle them back into the containers. Move that out of the way. All right, I'm going to turn it back over so I kind of see where this is headed. Again, I'm trying to get into that middle area of my frame, or my glass piece. So I'm going to clean that up a little bit. So I'm going to skip gold so the gold doesn't touch any of the glue that's wet down here, and I'm going to go straight to pink. So it's pretty much going to be this area and this area. So the last little wave will be however I decide to do my glue with my pink paint. Again, I'm going to leave this clear for a moment, and that'll be gold later. Be sure you have your nice big brush. If you got some of the sand colors on it, you can always wash it and dry it. Be sure you're going into your glue and not your white paint. Wipe it off on the side so it's not going to drip anywhere. I use my fingers to mark where the top area is. I do suggest this last kind of layer, it's not too much of a dip because you are going to be creating your cacti on top. So be sure it's not going to dip too much. You have a good place to create your cacti on it later. It's a little flat, so not too much of a dip down. Something like that. And then I think I'm going to turn it upside down again. Make sure there's no extra sand. And then same thing, I'm just going to hold on to it and sprinkle the pink on it. Make sure it's covering out that glue. It's okay if it comes down a little bit, there's nothing wet underneath it. do think I'm going to kind of thin out this area, so while I can, I'm going to make that area even a little bit more thin. Make sure I like the width of that pink. I'm just going to move it up, thin it out just a little. Just want to kind of make sure that it's all working together well and the waves look nice. Just have a good flow to it. And take your time, but once you're done, you can just kind of pat it over to the left. And then anything extra, remember you can move it down and away from any colors close to it and then start pinching it back into the containers if you want to reuse it. I'm going to move my pink out of the way. I do see a little spot right here that I might want to put more sand to. Maybe some more glue over there. Just kind of covering a spot that I missed earlier. A little bit more glue and a little bit more sand. Before I put any gold or white on there, I want to go back and make sure it's all nicely lined up. I can always use my finger or just my nails to move it. I believe the other ones should still be pretty wet to where you can move them as well. Just be sure you don't have any other colors on your hand, and you can just kind of go in there and use your finger and clean up the edges a little bit more. Again, be sure your fingers are nice and clean. It doesn't have any other colors of sand on it. This one's a little dry, so I'm just going to move it just a little bit more. You can even pat it down if there's extra. Cool. Alright, next step is kind of filling in those two spots. So it looks like I have white over here and gold there. Be sure that your brush is nice and clean, and you can use whatever color that you have second from the bottom. Oops, excuse me. So I'm going to make sure, again, my brush is clean. Go into the glue. Be sure it has that G on it, and it's nice and clean. And then you're just going to go into this spot right here very carefully and just going to fill it in. Very careful. If you accidentally pull some of the color, it's okay. Just be sure to get it off, wipe it off. Right. Now I'm going to go in there with the white. And I want to be super close to it so the other sections aren't really picking up on any of the white. Oops, sorry. So same thing as before. I'm just going to pinch and get really close to it so I'm not going too far out from that area. This white is so cool. It's definitely a little bit bigger pieces than the other sand. But you, of course, you can be using whatever color you want on this area. I'm just getting really close because I'm trying to get right onto those areas of sand. did get some sprinkles on some other places. I'm going to pat this one down a little bit because they're a little bit bigger pieces. I want them to be sure that they're sticking. And then same as before, I'm going to turn it and then take away all the extra. Oh, yay. So again, if you wanted to bring it down and put it into your container, just keep it separate from any other color. That white is so cool. That looks awesome. It gives it a really cool texture. And then all I have left is my gold. And you're welcome to have whatever color you've chosen to have left. Be sure your big brush is clean. Wipe off any extra pieces of sand. I go into my glue. Be sure it has that letter G on it. Get some more glue. Be very careful. Stay in that area. Go all the way super close to the other colors, and then just always remember, wipe off any extra colors of sand that you might have accidentally grabbed. Once you're done, put it away. And again, get really close. This one is that I have is definitely more fine, so I want to make sure I'm super close so it's not flying away. Go all the way. Get close to your glue so you have good control of where it falls. Right here. Go all the way into that area. So this is going to kind of give it the feel that your cactus is in a terrarium, so it has those layers of sand, and your plant life is just kind of laying on top of it. So cool. Awesome. And then I'll put this away. Actually, move them all to the side so I don't really see them. I'm going to turn it over to the left very carefully. That one's definitely a little bit thinner than I thought it was going to be. If you want, you can go back once this layer is dry and add some more glue on top to make the this goldish color a little bit darker. So that's up to you if you wanted to go back and give it another go around. Oh, excuse me. And if you want to, you can always go back. I think I might just touch up these little spots right here. The spots that might have missed some glue. And some sand, and then always be sure to take off any extra. Alright, that's cool. I kind of like those lines that are running through it right there too. That looks like it's working with the rest of the movement. Again, you can put your extra sand in the container. You can just kind of move it down. Keep it on your wax paper so again it's easier to kind of throw away later. Just going to bunch mine up. Clean up that top area so it looks nice and clean for my cacti. I want to check something out really quick. I want to see what color. Okay, so the background when we put it behind there is going to be this cardboardy color. So once I'm done painting my cactus shape, I am going to paint the space around it white so you don't see that cardboard at all. So once you are done with that, you can go ahead and wash and dry your big brush. take your time if you're still working on it. Perfect. And I'm just going to make one big, like, kind of fun cactus shape. But if you want to, you're welcome to, you know, have a couple on there. It's totally up to you. And if there's a certain cactus shape that you do a lot, that you like to draw a lot or paint a lot, you're welcome to do that too. If you want to do like a practice run of your shape of your cacti, you can always do a little example here for yourself with your paint. So before making it official, you can do a little example of your own style. But again, just be sure to wash and dry your big brush when you're done. So I'm going to get all my sand out of the way. I'm going to bring my paint a little bit more forward. I'm going to put my cup here so you guys can see it all. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my big brush and just dip it into the two greens. You don't have to mix it. They're just going to be working together on my brush. Wipe off the sides so it doesn't drip. For my cactus shape, I'm going to start a little bit, so this is the middle, a little bit over to the left. If you wanted to watch first, and then you can go ahead and jump in. So just a little bit over from the left in the middle. And I'm going to just make little small movements. It's almost like it's a teardrop shape, but there's that shape right there. So it's going to go out, almost like a horseshoe shape, right? It's going to come back down. And once you're done, you can paint inside of it, just like in a nice up and down motion. I'm going to kind of give it some arms here in a second. But that's just like the basic shape. You can do short, choppy lines if you want to kind of see that texture and see those movements with my brush. Or if you want longer lines, you can maybe do one in the middle, on the right where it curves, one on the left where it curves. Then you'll see the sections of your cactus. But that's absolutely up to you, whichever works best for you. And I'm going to just kind of clean the outline again. They come really close together here. And remember, this paint is wet, so if you want to very carefully with clean fingers, just going to use your fingernails to clean off the edges you can. I'm going to give this cactus 2 arms. So what I mean by that is I am going to use my big brush again. Be sure you don't have too much on there. And I'm just going to go up. It is going to come back in a little bit, so up and in. And I'll make another one down here. Up. I'm going to go a little bit in as well. It looks like it has arms or ears. And you can paint inside those too. And then it's going to be a little bit more diagonal. My paint strokes. It's kind of moving with this shape. Again, you can have those lines in there. You can have short, choppy movements, whatever you prefer. In a moment, I'll add some details to it. But I do want it to dry for at least a couple minutes. You can always go back and just kind of outline it again. I have wobbly hands, sorry. And then this one too, and then that one. Get them all nice and clean. And then wash and dry my big brush really, really well when I get all that green off of it, because I'm going to go into my white paint in just a moment. So really, really wash your big brush. Really, really dry it on both sides. Make sure it's nice and clean. Maybe give your green a couple minutes to dry before you do this next step. So I'll just show you on mine, but again, give yours a couple minutes to dry before you do this next step. All you're going to be doing is painting the background white. You definitely want to give it some time before you get anywhere close to that green. So while I'm painting and I'm showing you how to start painting your background white, you are letting your green dry. Just want to kind of show you I'm gonna need a little bit more space. Sorry, so I'm gonna move that over. Just gonna go in there very carefully. Again, mine is still wet. Yours should be definitely more dry than mine here in a couple minutes. Just gonna work around it and not get too close to it. You can even kind of outline it on the outside a little bit, go around it. Maybe outline it a little bit again so I don't get too close to it. And it kind of looks like it's in a little terrarium. It's really cute. Move this back. And this part, it doesn't really have to be solid. It kind of has a cool texture to it. You have a lot of cool textures going on. So it's not like I'm making long, perfect lines. I'm going in there doing like short, choppy lines. But if you want it to be a little bit more solid, a little bit more clean, you can give it 2 coats of white so you can paint it once and go back and give it a second coat. Or you can keep it that kind of short, choppy kind of texture. Maybe give yours another minute or so before you start the step, but if you've already started, just be super careful. Outline it around it just a little more. Remember, if you accidentally catch some of the green paint, it's okay. Just let it dry and for a little while, and then go over with your white paint to white out any green that you might have caught, and then put into the background. Take your time. Again, you can have short choppy movements, or you can have long smooth ones. You can do 2 coats. It's totally up to your style how you want it to do that. I'm going to put my supplies down for a moment and clean up while you're working on that step. And you definitely don't have to be done, but in a couple minutes I'm going to show you how to add some black lines and then some white needles on top of that as well. I'm done with my green. And all I'll have left is this black and white. Move stuff over so it can be a little bit more centered now. All right, you don't have to be done. You probably aren't. You're probably still working on it, but I want to show you guys the next step whenever you're ready. It's going to be with your small brush, and I am going to get my small brush kind of wet, maybe bring it to a nice twist. Make sure there's not too much water in there so it's nice and pointy. I'm going to outline my cactus shape, but with just small little sweeps, so it's not going to be a perfect outline. So I'm going to lay on top of the green. Maybe, again, give yours a couple minutes to dry before you do this step, but it's going to be a lot of, like, sweeping movements. I'm just kind of following the shape of my cactus shape. If you catch any green, you can wipe it off. Also in the center, I am going to do almost like a long kind of comma. So from here to here, I'll add a line. Excuse me, along like parentheses, so you'll have a line going that way and another line going another way. if you're looking at this and you're like, I don't want any black lines on mine, you're totally welcome not to have any. It's your artistic choice on this. So just like small little sweeps to get the shape in this long comma, excuse me, long parentheses on the right. So they're kind of coming in with the shape. Same with the small ones. You can just have one. So this one maybe just has one right here. This one maybe just has one right there. And again, if you're looking at that, you're like, oh, I don't want any black lines. That's, again, totally fine. I am going to add some white little needles on here in a couple minutes. But if you like to kind of sweep some black lines in there, this is pretty much what it's going to look like. And once you're done, you can wash and dry. In about 2 more minutes, I'll show you the last step. And again, you don't have to do this black, but I did want you to see it before you started it. If you're still working on your white, no problem. Once you're done with your black, if you've decided to do it, or once you're done with your white background, you do want to get your small brush wet again. Bring it to a nice twist so it's nice and clean, no black paint. Bring it to a nice twist. Small brush, white paint. Maybe even tap some off on your paper towel so you barely have any on there. And you want to barely push on your brush when you do the needles, and you want to be very careful of any black paint. You don't want to touch any black paint. And again, tippy toes of your small brush, avoid any areas of black. And usually to the left side, the needles on the cactus are going that way. To the right side, they're going a little bit towards the right. But let me show you how. So just little needles of white. I'm very careful of not touching any of black paint. You can always go back for more. Just kind of making just many little lines, tiny, tiny, and just barely pushing out my small brush. Be careful of those black lines. I think too I wanted to add a little flower with my sand. You don't have to, but I feel like I kind of want to add a little bit more color on top. It looks fine without it, but in a couple minutes I'll show you if you want to take the artist challenge and add a little pink flower. I'll show you how in just a moment. You can kind of see how it looks, and then you can decide for yourself if you wanted to add a flower on top. I think it looks good with just a fun cactus itself, but I also want to show you how it looks with the flowers. Let that dry for just a moment. Once you are done with the white needles, you can go back to your glue container. Remember the one that has the letter G. Be sure your small brush is nicely washed and dried, and go into that little G container. I want to still kind of avoid the green, so I'm just going to kind of be more on the white with my glue because I just don't want it to smear. And I'm just going to make a dot on top. Ooh, be careful of that green. Maybe push a little bit more. I'm going to just kind of put a little bit of pink there, but I have to be really close to that glue because all that other paint is very wet right now, so it can definitely stick to other stuff. So let me get super close to that glue. Oh, cute. And just put a tiny sprinkle of pink on top to have a nice pink flower. Oh, that's so cute. I'm glad I did it. I was kind of scared. And I feel like this part of white is nice and dry, so I might just kind of sand it more on that. Oh, that's really cute. That was just with a tiny bit of glue and getting really close with your pink and adding more. That's super, super cute. And once you're done, maybe give it like another minute to dry. I want to make sure you guys have time to clean up at the end of the class too. But all you're going to do is very carefully turn your frame upside down. And again, give this like another minute or two to dry. Very carefully pick it up. You don't want to touch any of the paint. Turn it over. Ooh, that side's really cool too. But this is the side with the texture. I'm going to have that side faced out. Ooh, carefully. Just drop it. Stay, 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 stay. Yay. Okay, perfect. Maybe don't touch the very bottom to the wax paper. Keep it up so it's not smearing. I'm gonna push down the backs of it again. Remember, this part's the bottom part where it sits. Just gonna very carefully, don't touch the front side at all. That's the part that is still wet and can move. I'm doing my best to not touch it. I'm holding onto the frame. Yee. All right, let's see. Voila. Oh, that's so cute. This might be one of my favorite ones that we've done. Plus the white paint that I smeared. It's okay. I'm gonna wipe it off. Oh, that's so stinking cute. It's a good one to, you know, you can hang it on the wall, or remember the back of it, you can pop it out and it can sit on your desk. Or, you know, you can give it to someone. I know a lot of special seasons or holidays are coming up soon. You can always give it away as a present to someone you care about. Awesome. All right, artists, thank you so much. If you're still working on yours, not a problem. Thank you so much for joining our craft session or our craft class, and hopefully we'll see you soon.